During summer vacation, my little sister secretly climbed into the back of a dark-colored van. I pretended I had not seen a thing and turned to walk away. In my past life, I had stopped my sister. Yet she had hated me for decades because of that. On the day her own daughter turned 1 year old, she poured lethal poison into the baby formula bottle. She cackled wildly as she watched the little girl spit up blood. "You remember this? You killed her. You ruined my whole life, so I will make you suffer for the rest of yours. Why did you stop me from getting into that van all those years ago?" I tried to attack her in a rage, but she stabbed me and left me trapped in a vegetative state. I lingered on for several miserable years before I finally drew my last breath. When I opened my eyes again, I was sent back to that exact day when my sister snuck toward the van. Before we move on to the next chapter, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. I lifted my gaze and saw Leela glancing all around as she stood with her back toward me. My eyes narrowed, and overwhelming hatred surged inside my chest. Soon a dark-colored van pulled up near the entrance. She knocked 3 times on the vehicle door, and 2 men inside quickly pulled her aboard. In my previous life, I had believed my sister was about to be abducted by human traffickers. I shouted loudly to draw a crowd of passersby, then grabbed her and dragged her away by force. I had been in such a frantic rush that I completely missed the strange look on Leela's face. Leela had hated me for decades. She had not only poisoned my infant daughter, but also slipped slow-acting poison into my daily medicine year after year. It wore my body down little by little. After she stabbed me and left me vegetative, she would come every single day to curse me beside my hospital bed. She would boast about how wonderful her own family life had become, about how adorable her daughter was. Every single year, she would bring her daughter to celebrate birthdays right next to my hospital bed. 5 years later, her taunts finally drove me to my final breath. It was not until the very day I died that I finally understood why Leela had been so desperate to get into that van. It had been her carefully orchestrated escaping reinvention plan. Ever since childhood she had thought she was some kind of special chosen child, that she was never meant to grow up inside an ordinary household and live an ordinary life. She had long suspected she had been switched at birth. As she grew older, her facial features started to strongly resemble our father's. She finally accepted the truth, but came up with a brand new scheme. If you were born into the wrong family, you could choose your own fate. The men in the van really were human traffickers, but Leela had contacted them herself and volunteered to be trafficked. Her one condition was that they sell her to a wealthy family. The traffickers had readily agreed to her terms, and today was the final step of her plan. Back then, Leela had thought I had destroyed her future and ruined her whole existence. She had hated me with every fiber of her being. I watched the van drive off into the distance and curled my lips into a faint smile, then turned and vanished into the crowd. In this life, I would let her chase the life she so badly wanted. I could not wait to see what kind of place those traffickers would deliver her to. 10 minutes rolled by, and Leela still had not returned. Mom and Dad started growing anxious. They searched the public restroom area, but found no trace of her. Their faces kept going pale with worry. 20 minutes later, they had combed through every corner of the tourist attraction with no sign of Leela. Mom nearly fainted from distress. Dad called the local police department. Unfortunately, 30 years ago, the surveillance camera system at this state park was extremely limited. Footage only showed Leela walking toward the restroom entrance, and she was never seen coming back out. Only I knew the truth. Leela had climbed out through the restroom window. She had circled all the way around to a little-used side gate of the park with no security cameras. That spot was overgrown with weeds and almost no tourists ever wandered past there. It had been her pre-selected spot to get into the van. Besides, the park was packed full of visitors. Nobody would pay attention to one unremarkable teenage girl. They kept searching until sunset. There was still absolutely no trace of her. Mom fainted multiple times out of grief. Dad smoked cigarette after cigarette. This is all my fault. Why did I fail to keep an eye on her? Stacy, Daddy is the one who lost your little sister. He buried his face in his hands and sobbed uncontrollably. Mom and Dad stayed at the tourist town for more than 2 weeks. They kept blaming themselves, convinced they had not watched Leela closely enough. Both of their physical conditions deteriorated rapidly. They were both admitted to a local hospital near the park grounds. Cold sweat trickled down my spine. This could not keep going. G would not let Leela's selfishness destroy our whole family. That night, I walked over to Mom and Dad with tear-streaked cheeks. I could barely speak through my sobs, and kept shedding non-stop tears. Mom pulled me tight into her arms and wiped my tears with great pity. Honey, are you missing your little sister? Is it Mommy and Daddy's fault? Do you blame us for losing her? I shook my head and buried my face against her chest. My shoulders shook with quiet sobs. I already lost my little sister. I cannot afford to lose Mom and Dad too. I am so scared, so terrified of losing you two. I do not want to be left all alone, Mommy and Daddy. The two of them snapped back to their senses in an instant. It finally dawned on them that Leela was not their only daughter. They still had me, their 8-year-old eldest girl, who needed all their love and care. The next day, they pulled themselves together. 3 days later, we packed up and drove back to our hometown. They no longer wallowed in self-blame in front of me. Guilt made them pour twice as much affection onto me instead. Dad threw himself into working harder than ever to make up for the time he had been unable to spend with me. Before long, he spotted a promising business opportunity and opened a small manufacturing workshop, riding the wave of the booming local economy. The small workshop expanded rapidly and grew into a large-scale factory. Eventually, it turned into a full-fledged corporation. Our whole family moved out of our modest suburban townhouse and into a sprawling multi-acre luxury mansion. I became the beloved eldest daughter of the Hale household. I was only 13 years old at that time. I lay on my soft oversized bed and laughed out loud. I wondered what kind of life Leela was living right now. What would her reaction be if she found out our whole family had gotten rich? The ordinary family she had been so desperate to run away from had become exactly the wealthy lifestyle she had daydreamed about nonstop. None of this had ever happened in my past life. Back then, after Leela had come home, my parents had gone right back to their regular day jobs. They had spent their whole lives as ordinary working-class people, and so had we. I ran my fingers over my custom-tailored designer dress. It seemed Leela really had been a curse hanging over our family. Without her dragging us down, we had all prospered. Having endured physical damage and a horrific death in my previous timeline, I started training my body relentlessly. I took classes in kickboxing, combat self-defense, swimming, and posture training. I also studied health science, nutrition, and basic pharmacology. I hired professional tutors to teach me every subject I could get access to. Of course, I never slacked off on my school studies either. Mom and Dad felt terrible seeing me push myself so hard. Stacy, we have more than enough family wealth. Even if you never work a day, we can support you comfortably your whole life. All Mommy and Daddy want is for you to be happy and carefree. I showed them my little sharp canine teeth in a grin. Mom, I truly am happy. After Dad closed several big new business deals, he had far more free time on his hands. While spending time with me, he still never stopped searching for Leela. He paid to print missing person notices in newspapers and online platforms, and offered huge cash rewards. Anyone who could provide information related to Leela would receive a $5,000 payout. Whoever could lead authorities to Leela's exact location would get a $200,000 in reward. The whole county was buzzing with talk about this case. Hordes of people kept showing up at our mansion doorstep. Dad was extremely wealthy. He never bothered to check whether tips were real or whether people were just trying to skim cash. He would hand over $5,000 to anyone who claimed to have information. Locals secretly nicknamed him the generous giveaway millionaire. Not every visitor was purely trying to cheat us out of money. A small number of people mentioned seeing a dark van, but could not offer any concrete details. Dad paid them little mind. And of course, I kept my mouth completely shut. 2 years had passed, and Dad had given away enormous sums of money. We still had no valid leads. Mom grew frustrated. All these people are nothing but con artists. Every single tip is fake. We have spent so much money, and our daughter is still missing. Just as mom and dad were about to try different investigation methods, a bald-headed man showed up at our estate. I recognized him instantly. He was one of the men from that van. 10 years had gone by, but his facial features had barely changed. He still had that shifty, cunning look in his eyes. He wet his lips with his tongue. "Mr. Hale, I believe I know where your daughter is staying." Dad waved his hand for him to keep talking. Hundreds of people had come making identical claims. "When I was working up in Portland, I thought I caught a glimpse of your youngest daughter." He gave Dad a fawning smile, though she was so young when she disappeared. "I cannot be 100% certain it really is her. How about I travel there to track her down and send you updates once I find her? But about that reward money," Dad absent-mindedly hummed in response. "I already stated it clearly. If you locate my daughter, you get $200,000 as a thank you bonus." The man rubbed his palms together and left after collecting $5,000 in advance. Mom and Dad paid it no special attention. Portland was more than 2,000 kilometers away from that tourist state park. Only I knew the bald man was telling the truth. Leela was definitely living in Portland. But did he deserve those $200,000? Absolutely not. He was nothing but a human trafficker. I immediately contacted a private investigation firm and instructed them to locate Leela inside Portland within 7 days. They worked extremely fast. Only 3 days later, they sent over a batch of photographs. Looking at those pictures, I almost laughed until I could barely breathe. "Oh Leela, this is the privileged rich girl life you chased so desperately?" In one photo, Leela was wearing filthy ragged clothes scrubbing public restrooms inside a diner. Another shot showed her eating pickled vegetables and thin rice porridge at home. A whole roasted chicken sat on the dinner table, but none of it was for her. All the meat went straight into the bowl of the little boy sitting across from her. The private detective explained that this married couple had purchased Leela. The pair had been unable to conceive children and could not afford to buy a baby boy, so they had bought Leela instead. 2 years after they brought Leela home, the wife had gotten pregnant and given birth to a son. I pretended to wipe imaginary tears off my cheeks. "My poor little sister, she has suffered so much." The detective added that Leela was no longer attending school. Her adoptive parents had forced her to get a low-wage job several years earlier. The detective paused for a moment and glanced cautiously toward me. I nodded for him to keep going. "Your younger sister, it appears she has a boyfriend?" "A boyfriend?" I did not see what was so awkward about that. But once I saw the photographs, I could not hold back my amusement. Her so-called boyfriend was a man in his 60s. This was truly interesting. The detective told me they would repeatedly meet for secret trysts after the diner closed for business. This elderly gentleman had a decent amount of disposable income and spent money freely on Leela. I paid the detective double his fee and ordered him not to share any of these findings with my parents. The bald trafficker had already headed toward Portland. It was only a matter of time before he found Leela. That same night, I put in eye drops to make my eyes look red and tear-stained from crying. Mom set down her dinner utensils and pulled me into her embrace. "Oh, my poor baby, who upset you? Tell mommy, and I will deal with them." I bit my lower lip and carefully slid the printed photographs across the dining table surface. "Mom, Dad, I found my little sister. She is suffering terribly." I held back the photos showing her with the elderly man. Just as I expected, the moment Mom and Dad glanced at the pictures, their eyes welled up with tears. Mom sobbed uncontrollably. "This is our fault, we failed Leela." They immediately made plans to drive out to Portland early the next morning to bring Leela home. As I stood up to head back to my bedroom, I accidentally knocked the photo of her and the older man onto the floor. Mom and Dad noticed it before I could pick it back up. I scrambled to grab it, but fumbled clumsily, and the image was fully visible to both of them. "Mom, Dad, please, she must have been trapped by difficult circumstances. Do not judge her too harshly." Dad's expression darkened first. He hated people who would do anything just for money. Leela was poor, yet she was physically healthy and perfectly capable of working. Mom pressed her lips tight, wanting to defend Leela, but could not find any words. Because in the photograph, Leela was smiling brightly, pressing her whole body against that older man. I quickly snatched the photo away. I shook Mom and Dad's arms, stammering out excuses for Leela. Mom, Dad, she had such a hard life out there. That must have pushed her into making bad choices. I believe my sister can still change for the better. Dad fell completely silent, his lips trembling with barely-contained rage. He slammed his chopsticks hard against the dinner table. We will still go get Leela tomorrow. I knew that deep inside, the wound of having lost Leela still lingered heavy in their hearts. Sorrow outweighed their anger. I lay in my bed, twirling that printed photograph between my fingers out of boredom. I could hardly wait for the spectacle tomorrow. Early the next morning, Dad got behind the wheel and we set off toward Portland. Mom was so nervous she could barely speak along the whole drive. She kept adjusting her hair and straightening her clothing over and over. She also kept searching online for advice on what to say when reuniting with a long-lost daughter. Dad barely said a word for most of the trip. He only asked once or twice whether I was hungry and if I wanted to stop and rest. Rest? Of course I would play along. I kept close track of our driving time, so we would arrive at the diner right after closing hours. But not too late, otherwise Leela would already have returned to her adoptive family's house. After hours of tiring travel, we pulled up outside the diner a little past 9 o'clock at night. Dad clicked his tongue. It is already closed, we came too late. Let us drive straight over to the Zane family residence. Mom grabbed hold of Dad's sleeve. She pointed toward faint light coming from the back kitchen windows. Her voice shook with sobs. There is still light back there. Could that be our Leela still cleaning up? Oh, my poor girl, she has been through so much pain. This business owner is heartless, exploiting a young girl like this, making her work this late all by herself. I joined Mom in pretending to wipe away tears. If you listened closely, you could hear voices coming from inside. More than one person was present. They made up their minds to go in through the back entrance. Mom pushed open the back door first. What greeted our eyes was a head of graying hair. That elderly man was pushing Leela down onto a table, kissing her fiercely. His hands were wandering underneath the fabric of her blouse. Leela giggled and coquetted. Honey, you are so impatient. Calm down a little. I cannot hold back any longer. I have missed you so badly. I have a day off tomorrow. Will you take me shopping? I saw a dress I like. It costs $500. All right. I will buy you that dress, and tonight, can give you something else first. Honey, you are terrible. The sound of the door opening startled the two of them. Leela lifted her head, irritated. Can you not see we are closed? Go find somewhere else to eat. You are really annoying. Dad shook all over with boiling rage. He stepped forward and kicked the older man hard, knocking him to the ground. Leela, look at what you have turned yourself into. Just for a $500 dress, you would stoop to. Even after 10 years apart, Dad still could not bring himself to shout extremely harsh words at her. Leela froze in the dim yellow lamplight. She studied each of our faces. Her eyes grew wider and wider, then filled up with glistening tears. She had been ready to fly into a fit of anger. But when she spotted the expensive Rolex watch on Dad's wrist, she swallowed those words back down. She stood there sniffling and wiping fake tears off her cheeks. You look just like my real mom and dad. Mom stamped her foot and pulled Leela tightly into a hug. Silly girl, we are your family. Oh my baby, it has been 10 whole years, you have suffered so terribly. The older man's mood had been completely ruined from the interruption. He grabbed Leela's arm angrily. Hey, who are these people? Explain this to me. Leela slapped his hand away and screamed at the top of her lungs. What are you doing touching me? Have you not forced me long enough? Now, my real parents are here. Dare to lay one more finger on me and I will call 911. I rested my chin in my hands and stood hidden partly within the shadows. Leela truly was clever. With just a few sentences she had completely shifted Mom and Dad's opinion of her. Fueled by their existing guilt, they would only feel more sympathy for her. She stepped past Mom and set her gaze straight on me. is that you, big sister? She ran over and threw her arms around me. Big sister, your dress is so expensive, I have never gotten to wear nice clothes like this. You look so beautiful, you have clearly been loved and cherished your whole life. Unlike me, nobody ever cared about me. Mom, Dad, I have missed you too so much. I stared at her with a faint knowing smile playing on my lips. This was classic fake ritual real ritual mind games. Dad phoned drivers to come pick us up. We traveled all the way back home that same night. Leela's jaw practically dropped when she laid eyes on our mansion. She looked at everything around her, touching every decoration she could reach. Mom led her over to see her new bedroom, right next door to mine. Piles of gifts were stacked all throughout the room. Leela, tomorrow Mommy will take you shopping downtown to buy clothes. We will get you lots of brand new pretty dresses. Leela wandered around her assigned bedroom, then walked into my bedroom to look around. Her eyes turned watery. Mom, can I sleep in this bedroom instead? This room is so huge and gorgeous. I have never seen anything this beautiful before. Naturally, my bedroom was the biggest and finest suite inside the whole mansion. Its private balcony alone was as big as a small garden. Mom looked troubled. This is your older sister's room. I smiled warmly and grabbed Leela's hand. Mom, let little sister stay with me. We have not seen each other in 10 years. I have so many things I want to talk to her about. Mom let out a relieved breath. Stacy, you are such a good-hearted girl. It is wonderful that you two sisters get along so well, reconnect and catch up. Leela opened her mouth as if she wanted to protest. I did not give her any chance to speak, and pulled her straight into the bedroom. I walked her over to the large walk-in closet and tilted my chin toward the racks. Little sister, all these dresses are custom-made for me, see if any catch your eye. Leela reached out her hands to touch them. I grabbed her wrists and clicked my tongue. Your palms are covered in rough calluses. You might damage these delicate fabrics. I looked her up and down and pouted. Little sister, you have put on a little bit of weight. These fine dresses would get stretched out and ruined on you. I toyed with strands of her dry hair. Your hair is so brittle and dry. What kind of life have you lived these past 10 years? I flipped my hair to show off my own carefully maintained locks. Even the very tips of my hair were jet black and glossy. Then I dragged her around the bedroom. I pointed out one luxury object after another and bragged to her about them. These were items she had never even seen or heard of before. I wanted her to fully understand what a princess-level life I had enjoyed all these years. Leela's face flushed bright red with rage. Stacy Hale, what is your problem? All of these things were supposed to belong to me. If you had not lost me, I would never have had to endure all that suffering. I leaned back onto the sofa, smiling silently, and swirled my fruit juice in the glass. Little sister, do you know, this fruit juice is specialty imported premium stock. Oh right, you would not know what that means. Put simply, one small glass costs $1,000. I covered my mouth and giggled. That is double the price of that dress you wanted so badly. Little sister, how did you end up in such a miserable state? Sleeping with a 60-year-old man just for half a glass of nice juice. That really lowers your own worth. Leela's complexion alternated between dark red and deathly pale. Before she could blow up into a full-on tantrum, I looked over at her with a sweet innocent smile. But it is good that you are home now. If you need money, just tell big sister. Please do not go chasing after that old man for favors ever again. I pulled a black premium credit card out of my purse and held it out toward her. Take this. It has an endless supply of those $500 dress funds. Leela completely lost her self-control. She snatched the card out of my hand, hurled it onto the floor, and jumped up and down stomping on it repeatedly. Stacy Hale, you hateful brat, I do not want your charity. Do Mom and Dad not have the ability to support me? You are doing this on purpose. I told you I was forced, can you not understand human words? I sipped my fruit juice and nodded as if I had just realized something. Oh, so you were forced. From how happily you were smiling, I would have guessed it was consensual mutual interest. Stacy Hale, I am going to kill you. She lunged toward me with her fingernails outstretched. I dodged easily, and she tumbled clumsily onto the carpeted floor. She lay there screaming and throwing a tantrum, helpless with rage. The commotion drew Mom and Dad rushing into the bedroom. "Stacy, Leela, what has happened here?" I messed up my own hair and pinched my own cheek hard. Tears instantly welled up inside my eyes. I knew exactly how to play the innocent hurt girl. "Mom, Dad, I am so sorry. I failed to get along well with my little sister. This is all my fault. I am not a good big sister." Leela simply threw herself flat onto the floor and wailed. "Mom, Dad, big sister does not want me to come home. She keeps insulting and cursing me. She even told me I ought to die." I buried myself against Mom's chest and shook my head desperately. "Little sister, that is not true. Why would you say such terrible things about me?" Mom's eyes widened in shock. She had raised me for more than 10 years and knew my real personality perfectly well. I would never say such cruel things. Dad spotted the black credit card lying crumpled on the floor. He picked it up and brushed dust off its surface. "Stacy, why did you throw this card down? Is it damaged? Tomorrow I will have staff issue you a brand new replacement." I kept my head bowed, my voice quiet and muffled. "It is not broken. I tried to give it to little sister, but she just..." I did not finish my sentence, but Mom and Dad already understood exactly what had transpired. Leela still kept arguing, claiming I had tossed the card on purpose to frame her. Mom sighed deeply, pulled Leela to her feet, and brushed dirt off her clothes. "Leela, we know you went through 10 hard years and carry anger in your heart. But you cannot take it out on your older sister. Your big sister has a gentle nature. She would never fight back even when hurt. You two used to be so close. It is very late now. Let us talk everything through tomorrow, okay?" Mom led Leela back to her own bedroom suite. Leela shot me a vicious, hateful glare over her shoulder. She thought she had hidden it well, but Dad had seen every bit of it. Once she was gone, Dad asked me whether I had been wronged. I bit my lip and forced a brave little smile onto my face. "I am fine, Dad. Little sister is just still adjusting to everything and full of frustration. She will get better over time." I lay in my bed feeling amused. In my past life she had kept up her fake gentle act for decades, making everyone believe we were loving devoted sisters. Leela in this present timeline had so little self-control. Probably because she had never gotten a proper education. The next day, she regained all her arrogant confidence. In subtle and overt ways she belittled me, hinting constantly that all the affection Mom and Dad gave me rightfully belonged to her. She thought I ought to feel grateful toward her. She leaned in the doorway and tilted her chin upward haughtily. In all those romance novels, the youngest daughter is always the most beloved. Just you wait and see. Sooner or later Mom and Dad will grow tired of you. I grabbed my handbag and headed out the door, not bothering to waste words on her. I had my full schedule of training classes to attend, she sneered behind my back. "Today I will buy 10 times more clothes than you. Mine will be far more expensive and fancy." Was certainly not going to give her that opportunity. Halfway through my kickboxing class, I clutched my stomach and called Mom. "Mom, my stomach hurts really badly. I need to skip kickboxing class today. Please go shopping with little sister without me. I am heading back home." Less than 10 minutes after I hung up the phone, Mom came rushing over to the gym in a panic. Without a single extra word she drove me straight to the hospital. Leela's eyes practically burned holes through me. Her facial muscles tensed into a stiff unnatural smile. "Big sister sure is lucky. Just a simple stomachache and everyone drops everything to take care of her. Unlike me, back when I lived over there, I would pass out from pain and nobody would check on me. I still had to get up and go straight to work." Mom stroked her hair, looking full of guilt. "Leela, I know you suffered a great deal, and I will make it up to you. But please do not speak badly of your sister like this. You are both my precious girls. If you got a stomachache, I would rush to your side too." I looked straight at Leela and mouthed silent words. Mom definitely loves me more. Leela's whole face twisted with rage. She bit her teeth hard and tugged at Mom's sleeve, acting spoiled. "Mom, since big sister is all right now, can we still go downtown shopping? I still have not gotten my new clothes. Mom glanced at her and spoke softly. How about tomorrow? Clothes are not going anywhere. Mom, I want to wear them today. Mom sighed, handed her a credit card, and called for Butler Wilson to accompany her. Leela, buy whatever you want, spend as much as you like. Leela ground her teeth in fury and stormed off. That night, Leela showed up at my room wearing her brand new custom-made outfit to show off. Mom hired a top-tier fashion designer to make this for me. Could you ever afford something like this? I stared blankly toward the huge walk-in closet behind me. This whole closet is full of similar pieces, feel free to wear any you like. Oh wait, I forgot, you have gained weight and cannot fit into them. She gnashed her teeth in anger. I stood up and patted her shoulder. Little sister, you really are naive. Why cannot you just settle down and behave now that you are home? Why keep competing for mom and dad's affection? Have you not realized yet that I will always come first in their hearts? Leela refused to believe it. This is only temporary. I am the youngest daughter. The youngest daughter is always the most important. She started stirring up all kinds of trouble. Her only goal was to prove she was number one in mom and dad's hearts. Tormented by lingering guilt, mom and dad indulged her every whim. Spoiled without boundaries, Leela grew wilder and wilder. She made lots of questionable new friends out in town, and would often come home deep into the midnight hours, hoping to set her onto the right path. Mom and dad wanted her to resume her school education. Your older sister has thought this through. Go enroll in classes together with her. The mere mention of me sent her flying into a rage. She absolutely refused to go back to school. We have so much money at home. Why do I still need to go to school? Mom, Dad, are you just like my adoptive parents? Do you not want me anymore? I know big sister is perfect in every way. So you only love her and you do not love me, is that right? Mom and Dad had no choice but to soothe her with gentle words again. They gave in to Leela's demands. After all, we could easily afford to support one more person. That night she came to taunt me once more. Stacy Hale, I know exactly what scheme you are cooking up. You just want my new high society friends to mock and laugh at me. I have read plenty of Belair revenge novels. You think you can manipulate me? That is absolutely ridiculous. I watched her walk away with that smug expression and shook my head. Foolish girl. My real objective was exactly to keep her out of school. If she got educated and grew smarter, everything would become far more complicated for me. Better for her to stay ignorant just like this. More than once I saw Mom and Dad sigh privately behind closed doors. They had no idea what to do with Leela. Mom wiped away her tears. It was our mistake to lose her in the first place. No wonder she has turned out this way. Let her enjoy life. I do not ask her to achieve great things. I just hope she can be happy for the rest of her days. But those shady friends she hangs around with, someday we will have to get rid of those people. I smiled quietly to myself. Leela kept pushing her luck, feeding off Mom and Dad's guilt. But how long could that sense of guilt possibly last? I already had the bald trafficker's phone number saved. The time to use it had not yet arrived. 2 months later, Mom and Dad planned a grand welcome home banquet for Leela. Leela was overjoyed. Every single detail of the banquet was arranged according to her personal preferences. She busied herself running back and forth all day long, too excited to even go out with her friends. 1 week later, I glanced over the banquet presentation slides. I shrugged my shoulders. It is nothing special. Not nearly as lavish as my coming-of-age party. That one sentence drove Leela completely crazy. She screamed and ordered the whole banquet decor torn down and redone. She ran crying to Mom and Dad to complain. She talked about all the suffering she had endured, and insisted she deserved an extravagant welcome home celebration. She wanted everyone in Seattle to know that the Hale family's youngest daughter had returned. When Mom and Dad hesitated, she pulled the emotional guilt card. Mom, Dad, I was gone for 10 whole years. Do you know how terrible my life was? Is one fancy homecoming banquet really too much for me to ask for? Crushed under the weight of their old guilt, Mom and Dad finally gave their approval. It was nothing more than throwing extra money at the problem. Dad and Mom were reluctant to hold such an over-the-top event. simply because Leela's behavior made her hard to present in polite high society circles. Leela was bursting with triumph. Big sister, your coming-of-age celebration was nothing compared to mine. I curled my lips into a smirk. Leela had taken the bait. Her adoptive Zane parents were already out searching everywhere for her. With such a huge public banquet, they would find her sooner or later. If they failed to show up on their own, I would leak information to make certain they came. And of course, that elderly boyfriend of Leela's would also get an invitation to the chaos. Leela could hardly wait for banquet night, and so was I. Banquet day finally arrived. Her custom-made evening gown cost seven-figure dollars. Multiple top-tier fashion designers had worked under her direct supervision to create it. Well, the end result was rather hard to describe, but Leela adored it. She spun round and round in front of me showing off her dress. My dear big sister, you never got treatment like this, did you? Indeed, I had not. My own sense of style would never allow something so gaudy. Leela had even invited the city's biggest local news media outlets. That evening she had prepared a grand dramatic entrance ceremony. To be honest, it was only marginally better than her dress. After the formal program segments finished, guests were allowed to circulate freely. Leela walked over to me, blinking her eyes. Big sister, I was wrong before. I was eaten up by jealousy. Let us make peace tonight, okay? Blood runs thicker than water. You will always be my most beloved older sister. I rested my chin in my hands and looked at her with a blank expression. She looked a little embarrassed. She grabbed my arm and pulled me to my feet. Big sister, do not be like this. I still remember how close we were as little kids. We used to share every nice thing with each other. Come on, big sister, I want to sincerely apologize to you. I even have a little secret to tell you. She dragged me toward the storage supply closet. Along the way she handed me a glass of fruit juice. Big sister, I know what premium imported juice is now. This is the new specialty stock, please try some. At one quick glance, I could detect a faint strange difference in the liquid. She had slipped drugs into my drink. I smiled and pointed toward the large electronic screen displaying old childhood photos of Leela. Do you remember when these pictures were taken? While Leela's mind drifted back to old memories, I poured part of my juice into her cup. I turned back and pretended to drink from my glass, which now held far less liquid. A genuine satisfied grin spread across her face. Big sister, you are going to have a wonderful, enjoyable night. Just sit back and experience it. She pulled me inside the supply closet. No lights were turned on, but you could faintly make out a figure lying on the sofa. Leela's eyes lit up. Big sister, do you feel your body growing warm? The atmosphere here is definitely heated up. I nodded, yes. I was burning with anticipation. As she kept talking, Leela's speech started getting slurred. She swayed unsteadily and pressed her hand against her forehead. Big sister, I am so happy. In the future. I feel so sleepy. Sleep then. There happens to be a sofa right here. She yawned and stumbled over toward it. I slipped outside and carefully pulled the door shut behind me, but left a small gap open. I had long guessed Leela planned to pull some nasty trick at her homecoming banquet. Still, I had not expected her scheme to be so vicious and cheap. This would be her reaping exactly what she had sown. As soon as I stepped back into the main banquet hall, one of my good friends hurried over. Stacy, there are people raising a commotion out at the front gate. It is Leela's adoptive parents. Mr. and Mrs. Zane knelt on the entrance lawn wailing loudly. They shouted that Mom and Dad had stolen away the daughter they had raised for 10 long years. Mrs. Zane beat on her own chest, acting as if she might faint at any second. Their adopted son banged his head repeatedly against the soft grass. He sobbed loudly. Give our sister back. Please give our sister back. My gaze drifted toward the man standing behind them, and I almost burst out laughing. He wore a formal suit with a groom's boutonniere pinned to his lapel. He held a bridal bouquet in his hands. I am Leela's boyfriend. I am here to propose to her tonight. This 60-something elderly man bowed toward my mom and dad, calling them Mom and Dad. Mom, Dad, Leela and I have been together for 2 years. Our love is real. Mom and Dad's faces turned completely ashen. They waved their hands trying to drive these people away. Though advanced in age, the old man was surprisingly quick-footed. He darted inside the mansion and began shouting at the top of his lungs. Leela, Leela, honey, I have come to marry you. Did you not say you do not care about my age, only whether I am strong and passionate? Every guest present froze in total shock. I reached over and cut off the background banquet music. Dead silence fell over the whole hall, and faint gasps and soft moans drifted out of the supply closet. I covered my mouth with my palm and pointed toward that storage closet doorway. What is that noise coming from over there? The old man heard it too, his face turned dark with rage. He rushed straight toward the direction I had indicated. He kicked the closet door flying open. Inside he saw Leela tangled up on the sofa with a homeless vagrant. Her expensive custom evening gown was still on her body. I ground my teeth quietly. Leela had hired a homeless man for this traffic, unbelievably cruel. I screamed loudly with my hand still over my mouth. Little sister, what are you doing? How could you do something indecent like this inside our family home? Are you trying to make Mom and Dad collapse from heartbreak? Leela jolted fully awake. She let out a sharp scream and clutched her chest. How did I end up here? Why is it this man? Get away from me, you tramp. Security, somebody call security. Mom and Dad rushed over, shaking all over from rage. Leela glanced wildly around the room, then locked her furious eyes onto me. Stacy Hale, why are you standing there completely fine? It was supposed to be you. I stared at her with heavy cold eyes. Where else should I be? Are you saying this homeless man was a trap you set for me? Every guest in attendance was sharp-witted. They instantly caught the hidden meaning behind Leela's words. Dad could not bear this public humiliation any longer and ordered all non-family guests to clear out from the mansion. He raised his hand and slapped her hard across the cheek, knocking her to the floor. Ungrateful daughter, how could you turn into something like this? Leela threw herself crying into Mom's arms. Mom, I am innocent. None of this was my fault. I should not be here. Mom's eyes were red. She roughly pushed her away. Get out. You even tried to set up your own older sister. How shameless can you be? Leela stared in total shock, then shrieked hysterically. Mom, you hit me. You actually hit me. A bitter, sad laugh escaped her. Do you have any idea what I went through for 10 years? You are embarrassed by me, think I am disgraceful. I know all of this. If I had never gotten taken away back then, I would be living the life of a privileged young lady just like Stacy. Dad stood frozen where he was. Mom wiped her tears and sobbed. Mr. and Mrs. Zane crawled forward and grabbed onto Dad's pant legs. We raised her for 10 whole years. Are you not going to pay us child-rearing compensation? Leela kicked the Zane couple away violently. Get lost. You know exactly how you treated me all those years. How dare you show up here asking for money? Get out of my sight. The old boyfriend grabbed hold of Leela's arm. Leela, you cannot turn your back on me now. I will overlook what just happened with that homeless man, but you have to marry me. Total chaos erupted inside the banquet hall. In a corner that nobody was paying attention to, the man in a baseball cap quietly walked up to Mom and Dad's side and whispered something in their ears. After that he walked over to the audiovisual station and connected his cell phone to the speaker system. Leela Hale, give me $100,000. And I will keep quiet about what really happened all those years ago. $100,000? You are not worth that. Dare to bring up old history and I will have people beat you to death. The recording of Leela's voice blared out loud. The man's cold huff echoed across the room. Are you not afraid your parents will find out you begged me to abduct you yourself? Shut up. You promised to sell me off to a rich household. Look where you sent me. How dare you try to blackmail me? Chaotic shouting died away completely. Everyone fell silent. Mom swayed unsteadily, nearly fainting. Leela, what does this mean? The man in the baseball cap was none other than the bald human trafficker who had taken Leela away years ago. Leela panicked completely, flailing her hands around trying to make excuses. It is all lies, he is framing me. I supported Mom's body and shouted toward Leela. Leela, do you know how many nights Mom and Dad cried themselves to sleep for you? You actually begged to be taken away by human traffickers on purpose. You wanted to run off and become a rich girl because you thought this family was too poor. And now that we are wealthy you want to come crawling back. Have you no shame at all? Leela grabbed fistfuls of her own hair and screamed. No, that is not true. Stacy, it is you set me up, you hateful liar. Mom, Stacy is framing me. She charged toward me like a madwoman. A household bodyguard stepped forward and kicked her down onto the floor. Dad looked down at her with icy cold eyes. If you hate this household so badly, then get out. Go live with your adoptive parents. The bald trafficker still demanded his payoff. But waiting for him were police officers. I had already placed an emergency call long before. Human traffickers like him would never get to escape justice. Mr. and Mrs. Zane had bought a human being, they would also face criminal charges. Leela still refused to give up and knelt on the ground begging Mom and Dad for forgiveness. But Mom and Dad were completely drained of all affection for her. 10 years of guilt, sorrow and regret had all turned out to be a huge cruel joke. The old man wrapped his arms around Leela, who was on the verge of collapse. I am the only one left who will take you. Before you were a rich young lady, so I wanted to marry you. Now you have nothing. This is how it will be. Leela went wild, kicking and punching at him. Dad found the whole spectacle too exhausting and ordered bodyguards to drag both of them out of the mansion grounds. Mom and Dad remained depressed for several days afterward. Leela still refused to accept reality and came back to make trouble multiple times. I bought plane tickets and took Mom and Dad overseas for a long vacation to lift their spirits. Mom would grab my hand and cry every single day. How could such a young child make up her mind to run away from home on purpose? Even though we were not wealthy back then, we tried our absolute best to give both of you everything we could. How could she turn out like this? I patted Mom's shoulders and comforted her softly. Some people are simply born without a heart. She never loved her family, she only loved money. We traveled abroad for more than half a year before returning home. The bald trafficker and his accomplices were arrested. Buying and selling human beings carried equal criminal liability. So Mr. and Mrs. Zane also ended up serving prison sentences. News about Leela became scarce. 2 years later, I traveled to Portland on a business trip. A deranged-looking woman suddenly rushed out in front of me. Her eyes were bloodshot, just like a wild cornered beast. Stacy, you should have stopped me. Why did you not hold me back from getting into that van back then? Stacy, you ruined my whole life. If you had interfered, none of this would have happened. I felt a flicker of surprise before I realized the truth. Leela had somehow recovered fragments of her memories from our previous reincarnated timeline. A cold, faint smile tugged at my lips, but there was no warmth in my eyes. Stop you, so you could murder me all over again? Her eyes went wide, she babbled in shock. You reincarnated, Stacy, you also got a second chance, you evil wicked girl. She pulled out a knife and sprinted straight toward me. I kicked her hard so she crashed against the wall. Right afterward I made a phone call to have her transported to a psychiatric care facility. The orderlies there really would restrain aggressive patients. Go enjoy the rest of your days inside that place. This chapter of the short story has reached its ending. If you enjoyed this story, please hit subscribe and follow this channel. Leave a comment telling which US state you are listening from. And I read every comment. See you next chapter.